Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting here again with Laura Burkey, and the question today is, are you feeling overwhelmed? You know, if you are, there's a simple linguistic shift that can make a world of difference. We're diving into a valuable word today, and when you choose to use it more consciously, you can protect your emotional well-being and boost your effectiveness. Get ready for practical insights that you can use immediately. Laura, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I am well. So, have you been feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you feel overwhelmed at times?
I think like anybody else, sometimes, of course.
Yeah. And do you feel, or on a scale from 1 to 10, would you say that's quite a habit of mine? It's almost become habitual in simply the frequency of it. The more you do something, the more habitual it becomes, right? So on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say? Would you say, ooh, 10, it's a habit, or 1, it comes, every so often as a rare visitor.
I'd say probably somewhere between like a 5 and a 6, but I know that most of it is self-inflicted, so that's I guess is probably why only a 5 or 6.
Mhm. And do you know what the self-infliction point is? Where overwhelm, you go into overwhelm?
Oh yeah, when I start to say like I can do it, I can fix it, I'll do that, and then I just overload myself. Usually, that's how it normally pans out.
Okay. Okay. Well, there is another way, and a very common way, that we humans go into overwhelm, anxiety, and then ultimately fear, because those are sort of the kind of the first doors before you get deep into the experience, which would be fear, which is reaction. The habit, the practice, the response of reacting. Are you a very reactive person, Chris?
If I get emotional about it, yeah, I can be pretty reactive.
Me too. I am. I can do it very easily. I can do it on a dime. I'm quite proficient at reacting. But I'm also growing in my proficiency and my ability to not react, but rather, and here is the word of the day, the linguistic move, which is the word experience. I am becoming more masterful or more proficient at experiencing versus reacting.
And I have to say, my interest peaked there. Experience versus reacting, they seem to be almost opposites.
And how does that show up for you? I want to say the clarity or the understanding that they're opposites.
Well, at least in my mind, but I might be the weird one. It would be more of if I'm reacting to something, I'm taking in the stimulus, and then I am feeling like I need to add to it, I guess. Whereas if I'm just experiencing it, I don't really need to add to it. I just sit in it, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, and just by your personal definition experience of it, one is requiring effort. It's requiring something from you, which is, oh, let me add to this, or let me do something about this. Where the other one is, in a way, if you don't have to do anything and it is an experience, which kind of denotes there's movement, right? An experience, it's not static, it's moving. Let me just go with it. Let me be a part of it. And in a way, the energy moves you with it, or you move with the energy of the moment, the experience of the moment, which one already could offer you. I don't have to wear myself out. I don't have to drain myself. I don't have to over effort, the parts of my life that show up from morning to evening.
So you would switch more to just experiencing it, going with the flow, and not exerting the effort in things that don't require your effort. I guess is what you're getting at.
Well, so now what I'm going to do, because I just, as I do, I like to often just throw the potato to you and let's kind of go back and forth here a bit. But let me kind of dial back to, how is this one of my words? So again, after 30 years of coaching people, and number one client, me, and really seeing the difference words make on you, on the whole you, how you think, how you feel, and then what you ultimately do in behavior, I first noticed that everybody talks in do. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Do. And we have an avalanche of doing, an avalanche that comes at us in our mind of what we have to do. And then we also want to be a part of, in a way, it's just now we have to go do all of that stuff. That typically sends people their whole system into more of a stress, anxious state. And then I noticed, because I played with this, that I'm like, okay, I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm tired of feeling amped up. I'm tired of feeling anxious. I'm tired of feeling overwhelmed, pressured, afraid, because that kind of would send me into maybe I'm not going to get this done or I'm going to perform poorly. So I was tired of that. And so I was like, well, what is another way I can look at all these things I want to do, but don't say or think the word do, Laura? And I thought, okay, so there's all these things I want to do, but I'm not going to say do. So I'm like, okay, so what came up for me was, okay, I have all of this to experience. What do I want the experience to be like? Or I could look, I would sometimes look at all this and go, well, what's the ultimate experience that I want to have in my life? Because even that could make a lot of the avalanche drop off because they're just there, but well, like, why are they there? So I got a little bit more in control and was like, wait a second, what is the experience I'm wanting to have here? And that shifted. So first of all, it calmed down, like mind, body, and then, my reactions for what I was going to do. So is that resonating, or are you hearing, feeling anything different when you think about the word do versus the word experience?
Well, I am reminded of a fairly popular saying, and I have no idea where I heard it first or who would be credited with it first, but it is that we are not human doings, we're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, if you're experiencing, you are more being than you are doing.
And have you ever applied that saying, that notion, that idea or concept into your own life? And if you have, what was the result of applying that for you?
I mean, yes, I have. I had a few difficult situations with relationships. That's no big secret. I found that the more I tried to do, the worse it went. And the more that I just tried to experience and what I wanted to experience out of it, it's just like the doing part sort of just happened on its own.
Yeah. Because, and we talked about this in the last time we were together, which was how we work the one-page manual, which was that you have a thought, and whatever that thought is, it's going to trigger an emotion or feeling. So if you have the thought, so much to do, or you have the thought, hey, I'm not a human doing, I'm a human being. So really my point and purpose of being here is just to be, to experience this. That's going to trigger a very different feeling in the body than, oh, got lots to do, better get on it, better do it, better do it, better do it. And so going with the first one, if you think, hey, I'm really actually a human being, I'm here to experience what it feels like to be human and be alive in this environment, it's going to trigger a different emotion. Maybe the emotion of, oh, how lucky I am. Or, okay, so no pressure, because all I really have to do is just be. That, to your point, is going to dictate, determine, or decide what you actually do in behavior and action. And typically, if you pay attention, if you're on that line, what your behavior or action is going to be is you're going to be more grounded. You're going to be more purposeful or intentional, more awake, more conscious, more receptive to receiving what is in this moment, so that then I can make a more informed decision or choice as I keep unfolding in the experience. Versus, and here's the opposite word of experience, reactive. And we started with this. If you're in reaction, that's immediately fear-based. Typically, it's ego-based. The ego has to react fast because it thinks it's going to die. And so it's a fast, quick, not thoughtful response. And usually it's a habitual response. It's one that you keep doing. And in fact, the word reaction, the etymology, it comes from Latin, which means to listen to the word, reaction, which is redo, react, redo what you did the last time you had this exact kind of experience or moment. So you stay stuck in this little loop, this little, I'm going to call it limiting pattern or program.
That does make sense, and it actually makes something else I heard make more sense, in that it was as long, like if you spend 5 minutes or you wake up right in the middle, like you wake up, you're supposed to wake up, you're supposed to wake up 2 hours before you have to do anything. And if you do that, then you give yourself time, and especially if you meditate or you do whatever it's going to do to not give you any stimulus, then you have a greater ability to not react or default on programming. And I have seen that where if I get up at I rise pretty early. I get up at like 5:30. It's not that early, but if I get up at 7:30 and I know that I immediately have to go do stuff, I notice that my actions are way more automatic. They're way more so it's like I'm just again, like I'm just reacting to everything. I'm not really experiencing. I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it.
That is really, I mean, I've never heard that put that way. And that is very useful. I love that. I love that. And it actually proves out. It proves out for me very similarly. I make a point, it is intentional. I make a point. The first hour of my day is my coffee. I sit down and there's a few different types of things I do based on my mood, pray, do some gratitude, maybe listen to something that, I find nourishing and empowering. And that's a very different day. It's a very different Laura when I do that versus pop out of bed and then you're kind of like the switch is triggered on to be reactive maybe all day because your first moment was I reacted to, oh my God, I'm late, I'm supposed to be here, and then that kind of just gets momentum from minute one.
Yeah, I've noticed that I'm definitely not as tolerant either, but I think that would come and it's interesting because I'm reflecting on those days and it's like you said before, it comes from a place of, well, I'm more irritable, I'm more angry. Okay, well, wait a second. No, I'm more afraid.
Yeah. So let me kind of give some really powerful bullet points to just this conversation. So really, I'm afraid. And that is the ego. That is the ego's and that's the wall it pushes off from all the time. It is a fear-based part of us. And here's the good news. The ego isn't real. It is, the expression, it's a figment of our imagination. That is what the ego is. Carl Jung talks about that the ego is simply a constructed mask that we wear, that we create. Partly we create it consciously. We choose things to want to front, but then we also, from our past, how we were raised and where we come from, that all helps build the ego. And it is a front to interact with society. That is really what the ego is, but it's not real. It's as real as a mask you buy at Halloween or for a costume party and that you wear. But if you don't know that and you think you are this personality, this character, this mask that you play, then the threat of death is real to the ego. Now, you might not think, I know I'm not going to die if somebody rejects me, but the ego doesn't. But the ego can't die. Like, it's not even real. So therefore, it's not a real thing. So it can't die. So for me, when I learned that, when I understood that all fear comes from ego and the ego isn't even real, and the reason the ego reacts is because it doesn't want to die, but it can't die. It's not a living thing. It's impermanent. It's in a way man-made. It's constructed by yourself. So it can't die. It's just a concept. So that helped me huge. So that's one bullet point. Just I want to say that there. So thank you for bringing up even the fear-based, because that is where all fear really stems from. And so then that leaves you with them. Well, what's the real me if I'm not the ego, my personality, my character? Well, then, and I'll just tread lightly on this here in this conversation, which is, well, that you are a non-physical, energetic thing, entity. Call it soul, call it spirit, but that's what you are, and that is eternal. Energy doesn't destruct or is not made. So it's eternal. This energy that you are, the essence of you is eternal. It's forever. It's not destructible. It's indestructible. Nobody can destroy it. It can be expanded on. Yes, it can, but it doesn't change its nature. Nothing can change it. So it cannot be killed. It can't be hurt. And so to me, the second bullet point is as you navigate through the day, be aware. We have to live with both. You have your ego that's staying here, even though we can understand kind of the sometimes it's ridiculous or it seems like, what's the point of an ego? There is a point. And I'm not here to give a lesson on that or prose about that. But we do have an ego, so you have to make friends with it. And it is useful. There are times that it is useful. And then there is this other part of us, which is this eternal, this essence. There's only one Laura, there's only one Chris, and our energy is evident. Through our mask, there is an evidence of, oh, wow, but I kind of get who this person is, or I feel who the type of person this person is. And that is your soul. And that cannot be destroyed. And so the soul came here and embodied a body to what? To experience. I want to be human. I want to experience this thing called being human on this place called planet Earth. So experience is what we came for. So you are so, now I don't want to say right or wrong, but you are so safe to go through and have experience. You're safe for it. And it doesn't mean if a bad experience, you enter into it, oh, we'll just go with the flow and do it. It means be aware. Here's an experience. And what is the experience I want to have? Do I want to stand up for myself and say, no, this cannot happen and walk out? Do I want to have the experience of fight to the death? What is the experience I want to have? So if you stay in the mindset of experience versus the mindset of reaction, you're going to stay more in control, more grounded, more sober, more lucid to the moment. It was a lot of words.
It was, but it was a powerful point. What do I want to experience? So if you're in a museum that's about conveyor belts, and I had this discussion with my daughter all the time on a daily basis. You're bored. Okay, well, what are you missing? But maybe an easier way for that is, what do I want to experience out of this? Well, I want it to be fun. And then maybe your brain would start to find ways of making it.
Yes. And that is being grounded and actually having control of the conscious experience that you're having. So, and here's another way. I could be with you and your daughter at the Conveyor Belt Museum, and you could be like, this is boring, but what do I want to experience? Fun with my daughter. So then just thinking that is going to incite, well, her and I can have some fun little back and forth about what we see, and we can make funny stories about it. And now you've made it a fun experience. I could be walking right behind you with you guys, and I could be really bored. I have no interest in this. And those two are having their moment. Now, what am I going to do? And I could say, well, the experience I want to have is I want to be, and this is so me anyway, I want to be in an experience that has so much going on, but I cannot be affected. Like I can be somewhere unwanted, but I want to learn and build my ability to be somewhere unwanted, but still be in total peace and feel totally great. And I've done this. And so that's how I could do that. I want to have the experience of like really getting strong and sturdy internally that my externals cannot affect me. So then I would now from that point go, good, I'm going to walk through and I welcome all the loudness or the uninteresting stuff or feeling alone or whatever. And I'm going to walk and then like, because I've done this before, it's like, I'm going to be in peace and feel like joy or good or whatever, despite the environment I'm in. Because that's the experience I want to learn how to be even stronger, because there's going to be plenty of unwanted experiences in our life. And I want to get good at it now so I don't react. Because I've learned in my own story and history, reaction has not done well for me. I have made a fool of myself. I've hurt relationships. I've hurt people. I've held myself back. I've built fearful narratives that I've lived for years. So I don't like reaction. It does not look good on me and it doesn't wear well in a life. So that's something I would do.
Well, Laura, again, this has been such a great conversation. We're actually coming up to the time here. Is there anything else? I mean, that was so powerful. I don't know how you could possibly top it, but hey, surprise me. Do you want to have any one last imparting word of wisdom that we can use?
Yes. The one last thing I would say, and this is actually not my wisdom. This comes from some author. I can't remember her first name. Maybe it's Susan Bolt, but her last name is Bolt. And she talks about that because reaction usually happens because we have an instant emotional movement. I don't like that. What happened? Why are you doing that? It's usually a strong reaction or a quick reaction often is going to be because we are inflicted with an uncomfortable feeling. And she says, feelings in and of themselves, a feeling without a narrative attached to it will basically dissolve or relax itself, like neutralize itself in 90 seconds. So let's just use kind of like, I tend to do this with you because I know we're both parents, but let's go to the parent who's got like really young kids. So let's say you have your little 5-year-old or 6-year-old who has scissors in their hand and you walk into the room, whatever room, back to your child, and your 6-year-old has this and you caught it right when they cut a big wad of their hair in front of their head. So they literally just, a big chunk of their hair comes out. Now, some parents, I think most parents would have a reaction to that, like, no, what's doing? Oh my God, your beautiful hair. Or that looks terrible. Or, oh my God, how are we going to fix this? Or you're not supposed to be playing with scissors. Like that would all be high and quick and probably common reactions to parents, right? Okay. So instead of the parent, there's two ways the parent can respond. One is, I told you never play with scissors. Oh, that looks terrible. What were you thinking? Oh my God, what are people going to think about? And they start to attach a narrative to the strong reaction they have. That's one way to do it. And I can tell you that is a unpleasant journey for however long that you'll go down that story road. Another way to respond to it is you walk in, you see your child do it, and you could be surprised. You could be like, wow, okay, my son has, or daughter has just cut a big wad of hair. Okay. And make a point not to allow for a narrative. So really, in short, don't judge it. Do not judge, bad or good, what you just saw. Now, your son or daughter with the scissors is not showing any blood or harm, but you don't want them to have those scissors. So you see that and you're like, okay, this is not what I want. I don't want my son with that. Don't want them, whatever. And so, but you just identify, okay, I don't like this, and that's kind of judgment. So it's just like, okay, it's almost like you have to be like, son, scissors, child, hair off. Okay, that's what is. And if you just stay there very neutral, then you will act swiftly to be like, okay, can mommy have those scissors? Can mommy, daddy have those scissors? I see you cut your hair. Okay, we're going to have to we'll address that later. And it just shows you to be a more grounded, present person who is going to respond to the situation in a much more fruitful and productive way. And in fact, I'll end with this little story. This actually did happen to me, but I didn't walk into the room. My son got up early when kids start to get up out of their bed, and you're still sleeping. And he came to my bedside one early morning on a Saturday or whatever. It didn't even matter. He wasn't even in school yet. He was a young 5. And he walked up to me and he's like, good morning, mommy. And I opened my eyes a little bit and I could see in the darkness of my room that his normal bangs, like he had a big old no hair right here. And what I did, which was not typical for me because I'm used to reacting. I was just like, did you cut your hair? Which was not emotional. I just asked the question. He's like, yep. And I said, okay. I said, well, there you had it. And only because I did not react. I did not react. I went with the experience. This is a 5-year-old who safely dealt with scissors because I wasn't with him. And he cut his hair and it seems like he's okay. He came to show me. So there's no emotion. I was like, okay. I said, well, you did it. I said, everybody gets one shot at cutting their own hair and you just had yours. I don't think I said congratulations, but I said, good job, buddy. I said, that's it. You got your one shot. And then, you know what? I allowed for the uneven hair because that's kind of cute. And that's the memory. At 5 years old, my son cut his hair. I have pictures to prove it. And it was adorable, but no shame, no guilt on either of our parts for that moment. And I had the experience and so did he. We had 2 very different experiences, but both of our experiences were good. He cut his hair and felt really cool about it. And I felt very proud as a parent, didn't react, didn't make my son feel bad. And even if I would have done the reaction thing, it still would have probably fallen out the same way. The hair is gone. It's going to grow out. And that's what I'll end with. A little real life example of experience versus reaction.
Well, that's a really great story. And I think that we as parents definitely tend to react more than we should. But, it's a process like anything else, right? We practice every day. Well, once again, Laura, thank you so much for being on the show. To all our listeners, again, thank you for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again with Laura next week.